Oh shit, what's up? That was quick. I need to make that intro just a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. How are you doing, Jimmy?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I've been gaming this morning with the girls. We've been running around in the new Fortnite map today and just getting in golf carts and shopping carts and dying and just having fun and feeling nostalgic because it's all like old Fortnite maps from like 3 or 4 years ago. So we're like all these old bitches, just super, super nostalgic. We were just having a blast today. So that's what I've been doing. I'm gaming today. I'm going to be gaming all day today too. So what have you been doing and what's your plans for today?
Oh, let's see. Well, starters. Well, I've been overwork all week. I finally did a stream last night for the first time in a while.
All right.
So and I was glad to do that because there was some important shit to talk about that needed to be addressed. I had some mishaps. I was telling you about before the show with my car situation.
Yep.
Yeah, had to call out from work, and I rarely ever call out. It's not exactly the way I want to spend an evening off. It cost me $40 to go and get a taxi to take care of that car situation. But other than that, I guess I'm fine. I'm just getting through the week. So,
aren't we all just trying to get through the week?
Absolutely. I was I know how your Halloween was. I saw Wicked Wednesday the other night with you and Warren.
Yep. Everybody knows how my Halloween night was. I spent like the first half of the night on Chicago Coroner with them, and then the second half ending of the night with Warren for the I called it Twisted Tuesdays, but he's calling it Wicked Wednesdays. So
it's Tuesday over there at the coast for you. So
exactly. Yeah, I know. It's so funny to me because, like, yeah, he calls it Wicked Wednesdays because it's midnight and it's Wednesday. But I'm over here like, he tried to get me to go on last week, and he's all, "Are you busy?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not busy or anything." He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna do Wicked Wednesday. Do you want to join with me?" And I'm like, "Fuck yes, I do. Let's do it." And like a half an hour, 45 minutes later, he's like, "Here's the link and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Wait, are you talking about tonight? Like as in Tuesday night?" He said, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do it tonight. I'm like streaming tonight on Tuesday." I was like, "I can do it tomorrow though, like Wednesday, like the actual Wednesday." But it's already Wednesday for him for the show, but it's not for me. So yeah, it's the time change is so wild to me still. It still gets to me.
Was the Sad Unicorn on the Secret Show, I guess, was such a big hit, you decided to do that again.
Yeah. Well, I figured, so I couldn't go and get another costume. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do it again. And then I figured since I already did it one time and I knew how to do the makeup and stuff, I was going to do the same thing, but kind of like spice it up a little bit more. So like Tuesday, I just like added more gems and some more glitter and stuff. So to me, it's like a makeup practice to see what kind of like artistic skills I can do on my own face. So that, yeah, it was fun for me to be able to do a depressed unicorn and make it look like I was crying and stuff. That was fun. Lots of liquid eyeliner and water. That was wild to try to get it like just perfect going down the face and shit. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like how creative people can be for Halloween and all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I officially taught myself how to French braid my hair this weekend for that too. I was very proud of myself. I now know how to French braid. It took me 38 years of my life to learn it, but I learned it.
There you go.
I wanted to call my sister so bad, but she's like 2 hours away from me. I was literally gonna call her up and be like, "Girl, can you get here in like 20 minutes and just French braid hair really quick, please?" I was so upset. I was like, "Screw it, Jimmy. Just learn how to do it. Just sit here and learn."
She
That
must
was
know
fun.
how to do it pretty well then.
Oh yeah, my sister's been French braiding since she was a kid. Like she watched my mom do it, and then that was it. Like she just always did it, and I never saw the point in doing it because it was boring to me. But I get it now. So, what's up, you guys? Good to see everyone in the chat. You got Daniel Barry Sports Highlights, and we got Kitty. What's up, Kitty? And Mr. H. Good to see you, Mr. H.
Yep, I see Cowboy Kitty, Miguel. I see Daniel Barry Sports Highlights, and I see Stream Elements.
Yeah, Stream Elements is just something for my Twitch. It's not a real person.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
then forget Stream. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. I guess. Shall we start with the first item, or?
Sure. Let's see. Let's get this going. We're doing RBN.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do RBN.
All right, got it.
Spotlight segment. This is a warmonger spotlight segment. Let's listen to George W. Bush talk about what's happening over in Palestine via apartheid Israel, genocidal Israel.
It's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be it's a democracy, and in a democracy, the people's voices matter, and there's going to be a weariness. You watch, the world's going to be okay. Let's negotiate. Israel's got to negotiate. They're not going to negotiate. These people have played their cards. They want to kill as many Israelis as they can, and negotiating with killers is not an option for the elected government of Israel. And so we're just going to have to remain steadfast.
Let's rewind that and analyze what he's saying.
It's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be it's a democracy, and in a democracy, the people's voices matter, and there's going to be a weariness. You watch, the world's going to be okay. Let's negotiate.
It's almost like he's. No, I'm not going to say it that way. What he's saying is, we're already seeing it now. We're already seeing people, because of all of the images that are coming out of Palestine, out of Gaza. We're already seeing government say, okay, now it's time to fix this. And what he's describing is there's going to be a wariness where people are going to start to say, hey, this is too much. And he's almost saying out loud, well, this is the democracy. It matters what people can't say, right? Then he goes on to proceed to say how what you have to say doesn't matter. You can't negotiate with Hamas. You can't, you get what I'm saying? The person the intruder who's in the house, why would the intruder want to negotiate with the homeowner? The homeowner is just going to say the negotiation is you get the hell out of my house. So it's almost like, not almost, they can't negotiate with Hamas. They have to make this idea that it can't be any sort of negotiation, because the negotiation, why wouldn't it start with you? This one isn't Israel, this is Palestine, and you get the fuck out of my house. But what he's saying is, yeah, this is a democracy, but we're not going to be doing that. You can't negotiate with these terrorists.
Israel's got to negotiate. They're not going to negotiate. These people have played their cards. They want to kill as many Israelis as they can. And
these people have played their cards. I'm not going to say that. I won't say that.
Negotiating with killers is not an option for the elected government of Israel. And so we're just going to have to remain steadfast. But it's not going to take long.
Negotiating with killers is not an option.
It's gone on too long. Surely there's a way to settle this to negotiations. Both sides are guilty. My view is one side is guilty, and it's not Israel.
Oh.
It's going to be chaotic.
Our view, or his view, is that there's only one person that's wrong. There is no both sides in this. There's one person that's wrong, and it's not Israel. This is the perspective of an American president who represents what America believes. Why would a country who did this exact same colonial project back in the 1500s, 1600s, why would they have any different opinion now? Any acknowledgement, any sort of pushback about what Israel's doing is a self-reflection, is a critique on itself, is a critique on the United States. So it's almost like no U.S. elected person they're never going to take that position. They're always going to have this position of George Bush here. I do have some reaction here. Of course, the Caitlin Johnstone with her analysis, literally the very last person on earth anyone should be asking what a government should do after such an attack. Absolutely dead last, 8 billionth out of the 8 billionth person. The fact that his opinion is being sought at all shows Western civilization is deeply diseased. I like this one. I think this is Caitlin too. Look at that meme. Look at that meme.
Oh,
That's
wow.
all the.
That's interesting.
He is the very, very, very last person anyone should listen to about anything. I mean,
Right.
he is. I can't stress that enough. I mean, $30 trillion in debt. A lot of it is on his hands. I know that Obama and Trump and Biden are not exactly, they're not exactly good as far as paying off the debt, but George W. Bush is the reason why we have a debt problem in this country. Why the world is less safe today. Man should be in prison. I mean, he really ought to be. He's a war criminal. And the fact that people respect him just pisses me off.
Yep. I mean, what else? Yeah, what else do you expect from George W. Bush? He's conservative. He's Christian. He hasn't met a war that he doesn't like. I mean, he literally lied to get us into Afghanistan and Iraq. So, if anything, he should be patting himself on the back for how much Benjamin Netanyahu has taken bunches of pages out of the George W. Bush book. So.
Exactly. I mean, in fact, this past since October 7th, I feel like I've walked back to the year 2001, 2002, because I think that's kind of what both parties want, to make us feel like we're back to that Bush Cheney era. One of the worst times of politically speaking, it's probably one of the worst times ever, and they're trying to repeat that.
There's a lot of feelings like of familiarity and similarness as well of other things that we have done too. So, but yeah, it definitely the word propagandas that they use, the language propagandas, and the one-sided, the good versus bad, white versus black, dark versus light, evil versus superhero kind of thing. Like it definitely feels like an extreme repeats of a lot. But I'm kind of hoping that, at least these kids that are starting to become a voting age and stuff are starting to see, it's just so wild to me, because like I was just talking about this, like when you're a kid and you're learning this stuff in school, like these wars and like the Holocaust, and like even just the Holocaust alone, it's like you look at those videos and you read those books and you're like, how were people silent? How were people one-sided about this? How was this? I just don't understand it. And now that like we're kind of living through it, you get that aha moment of, oh, this is how. And it's kind of bone chilling to think about, because growing up in these 2000s and stuff, and technologically advanced and social media and being able to talk to people from all over the world just with a push of a button, you would think that that people have kind of like evolved with your thinking, but they haven't. And it's so crazy, the aha moment of, wow, yeah, it's that same feeling.
Yeah, it's like probably even back then we think they're all a bunch of assholes, but there's probably a lot of people who lived in Germany who probably weren't. They just did not have that. They just did not think about the level of evil that obviously the German people today and people in general have, because people kind of were less involved at that time, and the in Europe, and to a lesser degree North America, have had centuries and centuries of anti-Semitism, which that anti-Semitism unfortunately led toward the state of Israel being formed. If we didn't have anti-Semitism, Israel would have never been formed. So, which I told people, Prussia could have been the solution right there after World War II, but that's totally different. But George W. Bush,
Right.
nobody should ever take that man seriously.
Nope, absolutely not. Just like we shouldn't take Hillary Clinton seriously and a lot of other Nikki Haley. I don't even know why she's running for president. That's another top 5 that I would never listen to when it comes to war. Ugh.
She's on my Twitter feed all the time, and I mean, I get angry when I hear her. I don't follow her or anything. She's just on the Twitter feed. I'm like,
Yeah.
My blood pressure goes through. I say because she's always talking about finishing them off. I'm like, oh Jesus.
Oh no, I don't get her on my feed, but you share her out so much that I'm starting to get her on my feed now. I'm like, oh yeah, this bitch is nuts.
Oh gosh, it's kind of like I don't know. She brings out the anger in me when
she does, for sure. All right, we'll get on to the next one. I'm going to do another one of yours because I saw this earlier and I really want to hear this because I purposely did not listen to this so I can hear it now, what she has to say. This is Tulsi Gabbard's own tweet from Fox, and then she posted up a video to go with it from Fox News. I can read it out for you if you want. She tweets, Islamist jihadists, both Sunni and Shiite, openly call for wiping out Jews from the face of the earth. Yet Cori Bush, the Squad, and others support or act as apologists for such jihadists and say that Israel is guilty of human rights abuses and genocide. This is one of the main reasons I left the Democratic Party, because it is led by and rife with apologists for Islamist jihadists. Really quick before we go into this, just to give everybody a kind of a heads up. Weren't we saying the same thing about the people and the leader of Syria, which she staunchly defended?
Well, the thing about Syria is a lot of people don't understand this about Syria, but Bashir al-Assad protects Christians and protects the different factions of Muslims protects them. And honestly, if he's toppled, something worse would take over. And that's part of it right there. A lot of the neocons on the Republican side used to demonize her for that. And a lot of the Adam Schiffs of the Democratic Party did the same thing too. And she was correct then. Now, all of a sudden, she went from sounding like Abby Martin to sounding like Liz Cheney on foreign policy.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, okay, she went from sounding like Abby Martin to sounding like Nikki Haley. That's probably a little bit better because all three kind of look alike.
Very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me. Like just before even the video, just reading that kind of pissed me off. Like Sunni and Shiite openly calling for wiping out Jews from the face of the earth, like as if the Jews aren't calling to wipe out every Palestinian off the face of the earth.
Yeah, you got fundamentalist assholes on both sides that want to wipe each other out. And,
right.
When it comes to fundamentalists wanting to do this shit, I say fundamentalists fuck off,
Yeah. And hearing from people like using the religion as the tool, it never really stuck to me. Like it hasn't hit my head until recently, like really finally hit me like, oh, okay. Like I'm starting to see the governmental business aspect of it with the cover of religion. And I just saw this tweet the other day too. I thought it was, or not a tweet, it was like a meme or something, but the words in it were really, really good. And they said that you cannot trust an apocalyptic religion to find real world solutions because their identity is based around the world ending, which is true. Absolutely fucking true.
I was watching earlier Combo Couch, a clip from Combo Couch earlier today. It was Pasta Fiorella Isabel, Tara Reid talking about Tulsi Gabbard and how all three kind of felt betrayed and fooled by Tulsi. Tulsi's actually been a guest on Combo Couch, by the way. So they just kind of felt betrayed, and they were just like, it was kind of like what the fuck moment, because they defended her in the past, and a lot of folks, including myself, I was defending her online a whole lot from people attacking her, and now I mean I have to take the L on that. I have egg on my face. Sometimes I am wrong. I was wrong to
Yeah.
defend her.
Yeah, same here. I really thought that we had a chance to get somebody at least semi decently progressive, but had like a military background to where she could maybe get the conservatives to kind of switch sides because of her rhetoric with the progressive thought process. But no, I don't even know what happened or how it happened. But yeah, I was
Oh,
wrong about her.
I know what happened. I can explain it. I was telling Tommy from Tommy Nation Politics, we have a discussion about this quite a bit. What I think happened was in 2019 when Hillary Clinton attacked her as a Russian asset. I think that because she's military, the right wing hates Hillary Clinton, even though at that time Hillary was to Tulsi's right. She might still be to Tulsi's right. She went where the love was at. And I think that's what happened. And then I think that maybe there was a little bit of a financial incentive to grift too. And it's a combination being felt like she was being crapped on and money to be made by going on Fox News and all that. I think that's kind of led to where Tulsi is now.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Dems do. So
Yeah.
kind of shit on people and make them not feel welcomed. And then the Republicans are like, we'll take you with open arms. Let me love bomb you and then join my cult.
She became a smarter Dave Rubin, in other words.
Yeah. She still has a wicked hair. I still love her hair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to confess, I think she's absolutely beautiful. I mean, not trying to objectify. I just think she's very attractive. I've always thought so,
Yeah, she's got beautiful hair. I love the white thing. I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. What's up, Ellen? Good to see you. All right, let's get this started with Tulsi Gabbard on Fox News.
I don't know if Kamala knows what she's up to, but the reality here is when you look at things like what Representative Cori Bush is saying, what the squad is saying, what so many of these other people are saying who are accusing Israel of committing a genocide, it is the height of hypocrisy because they're apologists and supporters of these Islamist Hamas terrorists who are calling for a genocide, the extermination of all Jews, not just in Israel, but around the world. And we're seeing this being carried out by these violent mobs and threats and other things that are happening against Jewish people literally around the world. And the worst part is they're doing this under the guise of, well, we care about innocent people and we don't want people to get hurt, when in fact, they are in essence supporting and apologizing for the barbaric actions of Hamas against innocent women, children, and civilians.
I called it creating the monster, like they're Dr. Frankenstein. And now the monster in their progressive wing is turning against them. But they're trying to pretend like this is kind of a shocking development. It's not a shocking development. No. This has always been there, but it's also deeply anti-American, is it not?
It is, and it is against the very foundational principles and values of who we are as a country. These Democrats, they have called people like me an Islamophobe for many years just for speaking the truth about radical Islam, about the threat that this Islamism poses to the freedom and peace and security of the American people and people around the world.
Well, do you believe, as do some of these Republicans in the Senate, that we should be bringing in more Afghan refugees? We brought in, 80, 90,000. We didn't vet any of them. I'm sure some of them are great people and helped us in Afghanistan. But do we have 80,000 interpreters or drivers? I mean, I don't think so.
There are many, unquestionably. Yeah. But just like we're so concerned about Biden's open borders and the fact that we've got millions of people coming in who are not vetted in any way, shape, or form, who have not been checked.
But they don't share our values, to Nigel Farage's point as to what you're seeing in England.
Right.
This is, they say, you can't call it a clash of civilizations. Why not? It is a clash of civilization. No women's rights, no belief in pluralism, the dignity of the individual, free expression. None of that.
No.
That's not on the table.
No. And that is the hypocrisy of seeing these, the LGBTQIA activists out there holding and waving the trans flag combined with the
God, that's
Palestinian
stupid.
flags. Like they
That's
don't
a new level
they
of
don't know
stupid.
and understand what this Islamist ideology is, this radical Islam ideology where they actually want to kill people. They want to kill those people
But Tulsi,
specifically.
they have to tie Ukraine to Israel because they know Ukraine
won't stand on its
No,
own.
it's not working.
That funding and
It's
again,
over.
they're trying to cheat the American people through their representatives by saying, okay, you support and you want to stand with Israel. Well, guess what? We're going to sneak in all of this other money that we're going to take out of your pocket and your bank account to go and support something that increasingly Americans are understanding.
It's not
This
working.
proxy war against Russia is pushing us closer to nuclear war, and it's not in our best national security interests to do that.
Yeesh.
Yeah. Yeah, Kim Iverson has turned against her too. I mean, she's been kind of brutal on Tulsi Gabbard, and I mean,
Good.
You piss off Kim Iverson on that one. You lost Kim Iverson. You really lost an ally there.
Yep. Absolutely. God damn, she has gotten bad. That's
not the Tulsi. I wanted Tulsi and Bernie to team up in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
That was the dream ticket. I said this over and over again. It was my obsession in 2019, 2020. I slept it, I drank it, I ate it, I obsessed over it. Bernie Tulsi. I thought that's what it's going to take to win. I thought that was a winning ticket. Now they both can go to hell.
I agree. That is just fucking wicked. That is horrible. Okay. So I have a little bit more of a fun one, I guess you would say. So about a little less than a week ago, Ben Shapiro on his show decided to take a few TikToks and debunk some what he calls pro-Hamas TikToks. Most of pretty much he just gets shot to shit through the whole fucking thing, which is amazing and hilarious. But my favorite one of all of them is the very last one that he does, because this guy that he tries to debunk what he says about Hamas and Palestine and everything like that on TikTok is actually completely like this guy is completely right, and Ben Shapiro is like it's fucking great. And so I just wanted to watch like the last part, not the whole thing, just him debunking the one guy that I watch on TikTok that's freaking hilarious. So here it is.
Law firm. That's okay. It seems to me that if you are a big business, if you are a legal firm, you have no obligation to hire people who support baby murderers.
Actually, Hamas started this whole thing. Remember October 7th? Actually, that's wrong. Before October 7th, Israeli security forces killed 248 Palestinians, and 40 of them were children, and that was just this year. And if you want to go back further than that, we can look at the recent history of war crimes committed by the Israeli government. Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, Operation Cast Lead in 2009.
What started each one of those operations? Islamic barrages of rockets into civilian centers in Israel. That's what started each one of these operations.
I just want to repeat, out of all the rockets that Hamas has shot over the last however 10, 16 years or something, it's only killed like 35 people. Some of these people for some of those things were just protesters on like the March of Return type stuff, you know, and sometimes, most of the time, it's usually Israel that starts these things. It's absolutely true. These people are just fighting back.
Here's the thing: Israel's the aggressor. Now I don't approve the rockets going in there into Israel, but they are little firecrackers. And when they kill 3 people, I'm giving an example. That's 3 Israelis too many. When Israel responds and they kill 30 or kill 300 people in response, that's 30 or 300 people too many. That's where the problem is. And you know, Ben Shapiro, he basically made a comment years ago that Arabs live in squalor, and while Israelis build things. I mean, he basically compared them to animals. I mean, he's a bigot.
Yep. And Hirsch, thank you. You made a really fucking good point. Totally ignoring the whole entire West Bank, which there's no jihad, there's no Hamas in West Bank, but people are literally losing their homes from humans who live in like New York City and shit like that, like getting murdered and getting booted out of their own home. Like I just saw a video yesterday of like this house where a Palestinian lives, and Israelis moved all around him and he refuses to leave, so they gated his yard. So all around his yard, all the way down to his end of his driveway, is super gated with concrete, and then a tall gate, and then right at the end of his driveway is an Israeli checkpoint with security guards. That's just one family living in this one home, like, and that's in the West Bank. So you're right, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Hirsch, for that, because that shit is just drives me crazy. Why doesn't he bring up West Bank? Why is it only about Gaza?
When it comes to the West Bank, it just dawned upon me, just looking at the occupation of the West Bank, how occupied it is with the settlers. It's like you got these little bubbles here around that I guess that's where the Palestinians live, and the rest of it is like Israeli. I didn't realize how squeezed in they are and how little land they actually do have. I actually thought they had more land than that. So I mean, they're in much worse shape than people could imagine. And it just I didn't fully realize that till just looking at a map a few days ago, and I was like, wow, it's even much worse than I thought.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
I love this moron. I guess the idea here is that, if you point out that what has caused the current conflict is the massacre of 1,500 Jews, like, well, before that, Israel killed other Palestinians. You're like, yeah, but why would they do that? And the answer is because they were associated with terrorist groups. And he's like, yeah, but what about the conflict before? Oh, you mean because the terrorists were firing rockets into Israel? It's an infinite regress of dumb here. Just name a bunch of operations without actually explaining why the operations were initiated.
Yeah, but you don't mention why Cast-Led happened. Hamas fired rockets into Israel. And that was because Israel...
I love how Ben Shapiro just says, like, oh, you don't say this, you don't say that. And then he plays the video and the guy says that exact same thing. Like, are you ready to hear yourself get debunked to your face on your own show? Your editor forgot to leave that part out for you, buddy?
Israel broke the ceasefire agreement they had on November 4th, 2008, while the entire world was in euphoria over the United States electing its first black president, Barack Obama. Israel used the opportunity to break the ceasefire agreement and raid Gaza and kill Palestinians.
For no reason, they're just raiding Gaza, just for fun. They just raid Gaza. To do what exactly? To steal their nothing? What would the raid entail? What would be the purpose?
See, to steal their nothing. Do you see his thinking here as an Israeli, probably Zionist? Take nothing. That means that whatever land that the Gazans and the Palestinians were living in Gaza is not theirs because it's nothing. They don't own anything to them. This is their mentality of how they think. He just proved it right there. Point proven.
Yeah.
It's such a raid.
God.
No, go ahead. I would just.
Okay.
Can you explain? Like, what are the great valuable jewels being held in Gaza that the Israelis desperately need to get their hands on?
Nothing. They're fucking homes. Are you kidding me?
Property.
Exactly. Land.
Israel so desperately wanted not to be in Gaza that they surrendered the place to a fucking terrorist group for 20 years, who then spent every last time building rockets and terror tunnels so as to murder 1,500 Jews. And one thing that I've noticed, they keep saying they're running out of power, they're running out of fuel, they're running out of water. The thing they haven't been running out of? Rockets.
Well, you're leaving out a lot of context. You got to go back.
That's because they keep shooting rockets into Gaza. So what are these guys supposed to do? Just leave those rockets there? They're going to take them back into the little underground Hamas areas, and they're going to try to rebuild it to fight back. Stop bombing them. They wouldn't have any rocket leftovers to build new ones.
There would not be a Hamas problem if the Mossad didn't nurture and groom Hamas back in the 70s and 80s to divide and conquer and throw it off the PLO, which the PLO is a shell of its former self. You want to negotiate with the PLO, but back then they were orbiting around the Soviets, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize now. I mean, because it's been, the Cold War is so long ago, and the PLO is, even though it still technically exists, is kind of associated with a bygone era, with the Fatah group being like the largest organization within the PLO that governs the Palestinian Authority. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
further than that, to 1967. Yeah, let's go back to 1967 when Israel started a preemptive war.
Egypt was
against
mobilizing its Air Force.
Syria, and Jordan, and took more land from Palestine, further enclosing Palestinians into the Gaza Strip. They illegally occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank in what has been formally condemned ever since 1967 as an illegal occupation in violation of international law, unilaterally
Wrong.
condemned by the
Oh,
World
Who
Court.
gives a shit about the World Court? You mean
Doesn't give a fuck about international law, doesn't give a fuck about the World Court, doesn't give a fuck probably about the United Nations, doesn't give a fuck about any of them because Israel thinks that they're better than and they can do whatever they want because they have the full support and backing of the United States military.
You know what's the best part about this? Seeing Ben Shapiro pissed off. I actually been enjoying seeing Ben Shapiro pissed off, and that alone just is worth it.
Yep. Yeah. It is very exciting and satisfying to see Ben Shapiro pissed off, but it also irritates and frustrates me because I get to see and hear the other side's thoughts. So if I think that if Ben Shapiro is saying this and thinking this, how much worse is it with like Bibi Netanyahu? So that's where I worry. I'm just like, oh man, can it get any worse right now too?
Organization staffed by people who.
Go ahead.
I'll give you an example. Online years ago, I had a Kahanas tell me that I ought to be wrapped in barbed wire. This is like about 15 years ago. Told me I needed to be wrapped in barbed wire because I spoke positively about a party in Israel called Meretz, and that pissed him off. And he told me I had to be wrapped in barbed wire for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they're so nonviolent, man. They're such a peaceful people.
Yep.
Who hate Israel and the UN and the Red Cross. Like,
The
it's just
UN, the Red Cross,
Oh my God,
the Geneva Conventions,
The Geneva
worldwide
Conventions.
Consensus.
He's
The
doing this in
majority
defense of Hamas.
countries
You see how
in
he's
the
so
world.
like at the Geneva Conventions? Like, fuck you, bro.
all call on Israel to return to its pre-June 1967 borders.
That's not even true. That's not even true. Even the UN resolutions, which are garbage and stupid, even those UN resolutions call on Israel to surrender some of the occupied territories. Not all occupied territory. Those are disputed territories. Some occupied territories.
Yeah, but you're missing more context. You got to go back to 1948. Okay, let's
No,
go back
67
to
was fine.
1948. In 1948,
67 was fine because he doesn't want to go back a little bit further to 1948 when actually that shit happened. Do you see that? He's like, oh yeah, no, 67 is fine. Let's not go back any further than that. That's a good starting point, you guys. Come on. Ooh.
Zionists extirpated about 1 million Palestinians from their homes and forced them to relocate to the Gaza Strip.
What? Excuse me. In 1947-48, there was a full-scale war between Arabs and Israelis. Somewhere between 700 and 800,000 Palestinians either fled or were expelled from areas where there was military activity. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians left in the lead up to the war and during the war because all social services had collapsed because the Arab nations were telling them to get out. The other part is that you may have noticed many Arabs remain, which is why 20% of Israel's population currently is Israeli Arab. The Gaza Strip was then governed by Egypt. I don't see this guy calling for Egypt to form a Palestinian state in the Gaza Strip. The West Bank was completely occupied by Jordan from 48 to 67. No call for a Palestinian state. Weird. Weird. Again, the Jews took in 800,000 expelled Jews from all the Muslim countries in the region during the same period, took in all of them. I don't see this guy calling for return of the Jews to their historic homelands of Morocco, their historic homeland of Egypt and Iraq.
Today, about 70% of all Gazans are considered refugees from the 1948 expulsion.
Okay, pause that for a second. How is that even possible? Seriously, how's that even possible? Well, folks, unfortunately, there's a lot.
He doesn't, his editor doesn't edit out all the times that he's wrong and got debunked himself in this, but he edits out any kind of explanation for there at the end for any of that. You know, he just gets to say that and then move on. Like, you gonna finish that or what? Oops, shit, my camera got unplugged. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. Well, he's wrong on everything. Every breath that's uttered out of his pie hole is wrong.
Exactly.
I don't think he's ever been correct about a damn thing in his life.
Nope. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't support bullying kids in school and everything, but man, if I would have been in the same high school with him and kids would have been bullying him, I would have been cheering that shit on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not that kind of a person.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, man.
Oh, what was he saying? Sorry, I wanted to rehear what he said right there at the end because he said, what was he saying?
1948 expulsion.
Okay, pause that for a second. How is that even possible? Seriously, how's that even possible?
Oh, okay. How is that even possible? What do you say? 70% of Gazans. Oh, yeah. 70% of Gazans are considered refugees from the 1948 expulsion. And then he said, how is that even possible? And then ends his show like, are you serious? You really don't want to go back to 1947, 1948 that bad? Like, you really want to you don't want to go that bad? And then did you hear him say like, oh, the Palestinians or the Arabs and the Israelis were in a war. Why were they in a war? I wonder why they were fighting. It's just I hate how it's just so much more nuanced than what they're saying it is, and they just make it seem just so black and white and final. Like they were fighting, but why? Why? Drives me crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll say it if nobody else can say it. Fuck Ben Shapiro.
For real.
Yeah.
For real. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I'll do another one of mine here since we're still kind of on this whole like TikTok thing. So I don't really watch him very much. Actually, I've never even heard of him until he interviewed that one dude that we know of. Anyway, Mehdi Hassan he is doing pretty decent right now with like the Palestinian view and bringing on Israeli people and fighting them with it and stuff. So I thought this one was pretty interesting. This is Mehdi Hassan brought on the Israeli minister and asked her if she supported a Palestinian state.
Do you think one of those Palestinian children growing up who's just lost his house, do you think he needs any incitement to hate Israel and the occupation? Aren't you providing him with incitement enough?
Let me think why those houses are being destroyed. The only houses we destroy are the houses of terrorists.
No, these weren't terrorists.
This is something
These people weren't terrorists, actually. They were in a closed military zone.
And you're trying to stop,
Minister, these people were not terrorists. 110 people, including children, were all terrorists.
Mehdi, we're not destroying any house without legal basis. We are a democracy that keeps all the laws to both sides.
We're not destroying houses without legal basis. Do you hear that? Without legal basis. Destroying, though. At least she's admitted she's destroying it. See, they say the words out loud and then they cover it up really quick with legalities.
Yeah, the fact that they're destroying
homes
discredits everything right there from the get-go.
Exactly.
My children are being raised on the idea of peace and coexistence. I don't see the same in the Palestinian educational system. I would like to see more people in the Palestinian.
And that's another one too that makes me mad. She's like, I teach my children about peace and coexistence. You don't see the same thing on the Palestinian side. Then you're not teaching your kids about peace and coexistence because you're automatically, that means that that's proof to me as another mother that you're teaching your kids that Palestinians hate you. And that's not peace and coexistence. You can't get your kids and other Palestinian kids to start talking and playing b-ball with each other and talk and hang out and get to know each other and see each other as humans if you teach them and raise them to believe that those other people hate you, which they're not other people. They're still fucking humans, but those people hate you. That's not peace and coexistence, bitch. She's just outright lying. I'm a mom. I know better.
Authority calling to having change, a dramatic change in the way those children are being educated. I think that every Jewish mother is saying to her child when he's born, I hope you won't have to go to any war because we'll have peace in the future.
You say
I
that
don't see Palestinian mothers that are saying the same thing.
Maybe because they're looking for somewhere to live.
Israel.
I love it. See, Mehdi Hassan is really good. She's like, I don't see Palestinians' mothers doing the same things. Have you talked to a Palestinian mom to see if they're teaching peace and coexistence? Have you made sure that, these children are actually fed and have a roof over their head and a school to go to that's not bombed out? Maybe they're not even able to get an education because they can't. So how are you sitting here making these assumptions on Palestinian people and just assuming that all this negative things about them when you probably never even met a Palestinian mother? She drives me crazy. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, many assumptions are made. People here in the United States, not everybody, but a lot of people think that all Palestinians are these unreasonable, radical Islamic people. And honestly, maybe some individuals are, just like they're unreasonable fundamentalist Orthodox Jews. Okay, you got your equivalents, but there's a lot of Palestinians who are, they're moderate Muslims. Some of them don't. Some of them are not religious at all. Some of them are Christian. I mean, they come in all kinds of religious traditions, and and all kinds of worldviews and philosophies and political ideologies, and people just think they all are a monolith or something, and it's just not true.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
Mm.
It's so funny too, because I always remember like growing up as a Christian and stuff. Like the one thing that you always remember growing up, I mean, like, one of the many sayings that you grow up learning in the religious kind of scope of things is the saying of, why worry about the stick in your eye, or why worry about the stick in someone else's eye when you've got a log in yours, or don't worry about the finger pointed at you, or don't worry about the finger pointed at you when I should be worried about the 3 pointing back at me. Like it's all they never even learn their own lessons from that. And I'm not even religious anymore, and I remember that. Like, you're gonna sit there and tell me that you think that these Palestinians all want to kill you and they're just so evil and mean, but you're just as bad, if not worse, because you're the one in power, and you're basing things off of nothing, assumptions. So it's just way worse to me. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
That's not what the Israeli group Peace Now said this week. When you were appointed, you say that you're raising your children to teach them hope and coexistence and peace. When you were appointed to effectively be Israel's most senior diplomat last May, you gave a speech in which you said, in reference to the occupied West Bank, "This land is ours. All of it is ours." And you justified that statement with reference to the Torah and with God's promise to the Jews. When some Muslims try and impose their laws, their beliefs on others with reference to the Quran, they're often called Islamic extremists. Are you surprised then when some say you sound like a Jewish extremist, using the Bible as some sort of property deed to dispossess others?
Well, the most important thing is to remember your history and to remember the deep ties that the Jewish nation has to our land, to the land of Israel. But the big difference is, when they're saying that this is Islamic land, they mean that I don't have the right to live here as an equal citizen. We have 20% of Arabs, equal citizens, being part of the diplomatic people in Israel, being part of our Supreme Court, being part of our parliament. Do you see the same in the Palestinian Authority when they actually want to have ethnical claims? They don't want to have even one single Jew in Judea and Samaria. Do you hear the difference?
Do you stand by the quote, all of the land is ours?
I'm asking you again, do you hear the difference?
I'm not the one being interviewed,
We are a democratic state that are allowing to whoever
all of the land is ours?
The fact that this land is the land of the Jewish people, the fact that we have historic roots in Jerusalem, in Beit El, in Hebron, in Shechem, doesn't mean that I don't allow another people to live there together with me.
So you support a Palestinian state?
That's the difference between our approach and the Islamic approach. The Islamic approach denies my right to exist as a Jewish state.
Do you support a Palestinian state?
Well, ISIS denies the right to French to live in Paris peacefully.
Do you support a Palestinian state?
This is where the radical Islam is leading us to. We need to fight all extremists from all sides.
Agreed.
And I'm saying again,
do you support
my
a
prime
Palestinian
minister,
state?
as part of the last 6 governments of Israel, said that he's going to the 2-state solution.
I didn't ask about
Wait
your
a
prime
second.
minister.
You're not listening to me.
Maddie,
you need to listen to me.
Please
I'm saying with a very clear voice. For the last 6,
state?
If you don't want to listen, then this is not a polite thing to do. I'm representing a government that is declaring in a very clear way on a policy of a 2-state solution. And you know that nothing is helping Abu Mazen to come to Jerusalem, to anywhere else in the world, in order to negotiate. No solution, no declaration, no speech will lead Abu Mazen to come and sit to negotiate with us. This is the thing that is actually preventing the solution between Israelis and Palestinians. That's the main story.
Minister, do you support a Palestinian state?
You're not listening.
I am listening. I've been waiting patiently.
You're not listening.
I've been waiting patiently.
This is the policy of my government, as I said before.
Do you, the foreign minister, does Zippy Hotovely support a Palestinian state?
Mehdi, you're not. Mehdi, it's so simple.
It is simple. Do you support a
I'm answering
Palestinian
in
state?
the very clear voice. I'm representing the policy of my government.
And what about
very
you?
Simple.
What about you? Do you support a Palestinian state?
You can ask that 10 times again, and I'm going to answer you again. I'm representing the policy of my prime minister. If you don't want to listen to me and to actually touch the main point, do you think the Palestinians are recognizing my right to exist as a Jewish state?
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, let's move on.
I answered you already.
Okay,
if you don't want to get my answer, it's your problem.
Let's move on. If you are the most senior member of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, you said that your job as foreign minister last year was to get international recognition for Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank, which are regarded as illegal settlements by the UN. Let's just assume that the UN agrees with you that those settlements are legal, that you can control the West Bank forever. What happens to the people there? Will you give them the vote to right?
20% of Arabs in Israel.
Will you give the will you give the Palestinians in the West Bank the right to vote? And if not, won't that make you an apartheid state, as Ehud Olmert, John Kerry, and many others have warned you're becoming if you don't give those people either a state or a right to vote?
Right.
What do you do with the Palestinians in the West Bank?
That's something I didn't even think about. Like, that's something that didn't even hit my head until I saw this video. Do they have even a vote there? They're calling themselves the most democratic state, or the one of the most democratic countries in the world. Do Gazans and West Bankers, those people, do they get a vote?
They can vote in the Gaza Strip. Obviously, they voted for the Hamas government in 2007.
Right. And so technically, they've already been having this quote unquote sort of kind of a status quo version of a two-state solution, still obviously taken over by Israel and owned by Israel. So
yes.
They've been doing this two-state solution thing, but they don't even get a vote of anything. Like, it's crazy to me. They got their own vote for inside their own Gaza and West Bank to vote for their own people. They voted to bring in Hamas as their leader. Now Hamas is being known as a terrorist, and all the Gazans and the people of West Bank are being brutally murdered and forced out of their home because they were given an opportunity to vote for who they wanted as a leader because they can't vote for anything in Israel. Like that. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, and
like, just put a cherry on top of this goddamn cake because this shit is cooked. It's done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it is. And she doesn't believe in a Palestinian state. She's representing the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, they don't favor a Palestinian state. It's Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Right. Yeah. Right. If it would be some kind of other government, maybe. But it's specifically Benjamin Netanyahu's government. It's actually the most right-wing government they have ever had in their 75 years history. I mean, the government has swung back and forth over the years. I mean, there's been marginally better governments that they've had in the past. This is the worst government they have ever elected, ever.
I agree.
This is actual fascism that they've actually elected earlier this year. They've actually achieved fascism with this last election, with how far to the right that the government has become in Israel.
Yep, I completely agree. This is insane to me.
The most important thing that I expect from any international leader to do is to call the two sides to sit in one room and to negotiate. And the second thing I expect every international leader to do is to call the Palestinians to stop violence, stop terrorism.
Okay, but
now this is the base of any infrastructure you can imagine.
What's the answer to my question? What do you want to see happen to the Palestinians in the West Bank?
Very simple. I want to see the Palestinians becoming my neighbors and not my enemies. And right now they're choosing to be my enemies and not my neighbors.
Do they get to
and living peacefully with Egypt, it depends what the path they're going to choose. If they're choosing a war, the way it is at the moment, it seems like the violence they're putting against their own people is something that we need to fight. We need to fight through incitement. We need to fight through daily basis terrorism. We need to live, first of all, the near future. And in the near future, we need to fight terrorism no matter where it's coming from. And you're asking me about future infrastructure. Well, look at the Middle East. The Middle East is falling apart. You see countries don't exist anymore. So we need to be very sure and clear that the Palestinian Authority can control the messaging and can control the youngsters when it comes to the vision of the coming future. That's the most important thing.
Zippy Hotovelli, thanks so much for joining me on Upfront.
gaslighting, tiptoeing around the questions. Man, that's what we have to look forward to. I guess she's like the top foreign administrator or something like that. So, yay for us.
Yeah, as I said, it's their worst government, and I think it's going to ultimately be their demise. Having something so extreme. I mean, I think that world opinion on Israel's never been more negative than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even in America. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing that's positive out of this. There would have been a time that you could have, I mean, in spite of people saying, oh, you're an anti-Semite, if you criticize Israel today, there's a little more wiggle room, and people today are slightly less judgmental than they would have been 20 years ago, or even a decade ago. A decade ago, if you would have said there's some nuance to this and everything, they would I mean,
yep,
your reputation would have been totally smeared. And there's a little more of a pushback now than there's been, and this is why there's a lot of folks who claim to be for free speech in the last few years, like a Ben Shapiro type, and I guess we'll be talking about that in a few minutes, that they're now, all of a sudden finding censorship to be totally cool.
Yeah. No, I'm starting to see all that. Absolutely myself too. Actually, I can. I have that up. I can put that up. Really quick. Yeah, her saying control the youngsters right there too. Like how are you supposed to? You know who needs to control their youngsters is the Israelis with their IDF soldiers. All these little kids right out of high school being handed guns and saying do whatever you want whenever you want. That's the youngsters that need to be controlled.
Yeah. I mean, and think about it. Here in the United States, the thought police. I mean, they're. I'm not too happy with the squad, but there are people trying to say that Rashida Tlaib ought to be removed from Congress because she doesn't support Israel. She's fucking Palestinian. What do you expect her to do? Cheerlead Benjamin Netanyahu? She's not allowed to visit her family in Israel because of that SOB.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so here's your free speech warriors now are suddenly pro censorship.
Yep.
Let's go over some of the free speech warriors who are suddenly against free speech. Ben Shapiro, he said, if you work in the media and uncritically and reflexively parrot the genocidal Jew-hating terrorist liars Hamas, you should be fired. So he's now very much for censorship. He at one point actually tweeted that no one should be fired for their views, even if their views are stupid. He was just like, society should just come after you. And, that's, you make your own bed, you have to lie in it. If society comes after you, but you shouldn't be fired. Now he's saying, oh no, you should be fired. So he's definitely, we figured out what the cause is that makes him suddenly go from free speech warrior to no longer in support of free speech. Dave Rubin is the same way. Here's somebody who's built his entire career and fame off of being a free speech champion. We should be able to discuss ideas. We talked about the oppression Olympics and how it's one group that claims they're victims versus another group who claims they're victims. And that sounds really darn familiar in this particular situation, doesn't it? Everybody says they're a victim. He was against the oppression Olympics and he was all pro free speech. And he says, maybe the West has a chance. And this is in response to this Israeli spokesperson who says, breaking, France has just banned pro-Palestine protests. I also want to point out that Hanania Naftali, who is like one of the official Israeli spokespeople on social media, he was one who actually, why many of us believed that the hospital had been bombed by Israel, is because he actually tweeted out, Israel just bombed this hospital. And it's unfortunate we've had to do that, but there were Hamas terrorists inside. So that's why so many people believed that Israel had done it right out of the gate, because Israel's own spokespeople were saying it.
They did.
We also have Loomer, Laura Loomer. So she's also been somebody who claims that she was for free speech. But she says, as many of you know, so she's in this squabble with this Danish doctor, and they're going back and forth. And to be honest with you, both of them say really hateful things. They're like made for each other, these two. And so she's going against this doctor, and she's saying, as many of you know, America is the only country with the First Amendment, but it is not the case in other countries, especially not in Denmark, where Dr. Lupus is a practicing physician. I suspect she will be losing her medical license soon. And even if you take this away, the fact that she's using her position as a medical doctor to make fake medical diagnosis of Jews online to smear them as mentally ill, because she called her mentally ill, is a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. You cannot falsely diagnose someone online in an effort to smear them. She needs to be reported for abusing her medical license. Her behavior is dangerous and highly illegal as a medical professional. So now she wants to, and she said later, I am reporting her. So Laura Loomer is now reporting this doctor, trying to get her fired, just like really digging into that cancel culture. Megyn Kelly, she also got involved in this. She says, look at these disgusting terrorist sympathizers, the aggressors here from Harvard Law, on the law review, no less, and Harvard Divinity, who would hire these lunatics. And so she's Israeli Harvard Business School student accosted and harassed amid Gaza die-in on campus is the link to the story. So she's saying, who would hire these lunatics? She got actually into a back and forth exchange with Candace Owens about this. Candace Owens saying, I don't think we should ruin people's careers and lives for maybe having one bad opinion when they're young. And they went in this back and forth thing. And Megyn was very much like, well, no, I'm not going to hire these people. If you like them, then you hire them. And I think everybody remembers being young and having dumb ideas when you're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I don't know anybody who was like fully evolved by then. So
agreed.
But Megyn Kelly is saying, no, we should ruin their lives. Let's ruin young people's lives over their opinions. Mm-hmm. Some outlets are now pro-cancel culture. Rebel News, sadly. Rebel News was a great organization that covered the Canadian trucker convoy in depth. And they've very much been on the side of the people who were speaking out against mandates and lockdowns and masking, and they were very much against all of that. But now when it comes to this particular issue, suddenly they're all about getting people fired and cancel culture. Here's their tweet petition. They have a poll petition. Fire Jama. Ontario NDP MPP Sarah Jama has accused Israel of apartheid for defending itself against Hamas's wave of brutal terrorism that targeted innocent women and children.
Oh,
and they actually
my
have
God.
their own Fire Jama petition. So the death of, just when you think you find free speech allies, you just got to find the one thing that makes them suddenly flip and no longer in support of absolute free speech. And it's just, I worry about where our society is headed with all of this. I worry that we will lose our free speech privileges in this country, a right that we absolutely need in order to remain a democracy. I worry that we're going, if it's not one thing, if it's one group viscerally wanting to ban certain speech, then it's the other who wants to viscerally ban different speech. It's just, we cannot operate like this. We need to have discussion, an exchange of ideas. Adults need to be adults. We need to have, if we don't have to agree with each other, even after that exchange of ideas, we don't have to come to consensus. We can continue to not agree. We can continue to say, I think you're wrong. And you could even continue to say, and I think you're abhorrent and a bad person and a genocidal lunatic. You can say all of those things. But it's when you start saying, and I think you should lose your job and not have a way to live. That's what the pro-mandate people did. They said, you shouldn't have a job. You shouldn't be able to live unless you do what I want you to do. Unless you behave the way I say, you should lose your livelihood. Now you've got Laura Loomer and Rebel News doing the same thing to other people. You should lose your livelihood. Megyn Kelly, you should lose your livelihood if you don't say what I want you to say and behave the way I want you to behave. That is so utterly and completely dangerous and childish, quite frankly, and un-American and completely antithetical to everything that America is supposed to stand for. These people honestly should be ashamed of themselves. They should at least look in the mirror and realize that they're being absolute hypocrites in this, that you should never call for a person to lose their livelihood or be canceled because you don't like their opinions.
Man, this is something that both sides do all the time, back and forth. Like, she's right. This is the, one thing that some of these conservatives are doing to make cancel culture to them seem okay and plausible and doable. But there's always a flip flop in like this quote unquote cancel culture, because there has been like forms of canceling, just not in the way that we think it is now through technology and things like that. Back in those days, people that protested against the Vietnam War were thrown in jail. It's all the same kind of stuff. It's just, depends on who we're fighting, is that's what side is going to be for it or against this whole cancel culture of opposite opinions.
Exactly. I'm going to defend. She mentioned Candace Owens. I despise Candace Owens, but this is the second time I'm going to defend her. A couple of years ago, people said that she didn't get herself vaccinated. I think she lied. I think she is vaccinated, but she claims that she's not vaccinated. They said since she's not vaccinated, that she should never be treated as punishment. I'm like, that's stupid, because even though she's wrong and she's stupid on everything, Candace Owens not being treated for COVID, she could pass that to other people. That alone is a good reason to not do that to her. But Candace Owens has been better on this issue on free speech, not punishing people because of their opinions on Israel. She's been good on that issue. So has Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm going to give them credit on that. And I haven't heard Alex Jones say anything about it, but I will say this, that when the Occupy Wall Street people were under attack a decade ago, he was the only right-wing voice on his show in that right-wing media, alternative media, that was defending the civil liberties of these leftists on Occupy Wall Street, while everybody else, the Rush Limbaughs and all of these other folks, were cheering law enforcement cracking down on them. You hardly ever hear a conservative voice defend the left. There are some exceptions there.
Right. And yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And I wanted to bring up too, I think this is a really cool little segue of like, we get to see the hypocrisy on the conservative side. Now I kind of wanted to show a little 1.5 minute video, which I thought was really cool. Now that you put that up, now I get to show kind of like the hypocrisy on the Democratic side when it comes to this whole thingy as well. So this was a really cool TikTok that I had found that this guy put together, which is cool because it shows our U.S. Government official doing a press briefing and his two kind of opinions on quote unquote war when it comes to like Ukraine and Russia versus Palestine and Israel. So here is the difference between his opinion on the two different wars.
These two clips from a White House spokesperson. The first is from this week.
Being honest about the fact that there have been civilian casualties and that there likely will be more is being honest, because that's what war is. It's brutal, it's ugly, it's messy. I've said that before. The president also said that yesterday. Doesn't mean we have to like it.
That was National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, basically telling journalists to grow up. War is dirty, war is messy, good people die, but that's life. What do you want me to do about it? Right? Now compare that to how Kirby talked about civilian deaths in Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
It's hard to look at what he's doing in Ukraine, what his forces are doing in Ukraine, and think that any ethical, moral individual could justify that. It's difficult to look at some of the images and imagine that any well-thinking, serious, mature leader would do that.
So the killing of Ukrainian civilians brings John Kirby to tears. Fine, right? Got no problem with that. But when Palestinians are killed by a US ally, these things happen. People die. It's war.
That's my view of how the Democrats are in kind of like a hypocrisy of view of people dying and yeah. Crazy, right?
Yes, it is. It is. They behave in a different way than Republicans do.
almost tearing up, had to take a second to breathe and think really quick. But as soon as it's over Palestine, he's like, it's war, it's dirty, people are going to die, it's okay. Just the two different thought processes is horrible.
I'll tell you what it is with the Democrats and Republicans over Israel. They're basically the same on Israel. Democrats and Republicans alike do support Israel, and for different reasons. Republicans, they will tell you it's the evangelical Christians, the prophecy. They don't give a fuck about Jews. They'll tell you how much they love the Jewish people. Bullshit. They don't. They want Iran and Israel to toss nukes at each other. And what's it going to mean for Western civilization? When the evangelicals get what they want, the Jews are going to be gone too in the process. I can't think of anything more anti-Semitic than what the evangelicals want in terms of the rapture when it comes to Israel. So that's why the evangelicals support this neocon bullshit. On the Democrat side, they use the pink diaper theory. Basically, Israel is a little bit better than the rest of the Middle East on LGBTQ issues. You can have pride parades in Israel, that sort of thing, and it's technically a more secular society. So they'll use the trappings of, and that's changing now with this government. The trappings of what they call liberal democracies.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they're doing shitty things to the Palestinian people, there's kind of a almost perception of a secular civil society that looks like a liberal democracy, Western society. That's kind of deceptive. They'll pink diaper that with the Democrats, and the Republicans will use the evangelical message of the fundamentalists. That's how that works.
Okay. I see you got a second part too. If words were violence, Dave Rubin versus Dave Rubin. I love how we're showing off the hypocrisy of people today. This is very nice.
And of course, as I always say and will continue to say, you have every right to protest and use your speech to counter someone else's speech. This is why I talk so much about self-censorship and the chill effect around free speech. What's being stolen from these college students is the ability to learn how to think about complex issues while in university so that they can be equipped to engage with a diverse set of ideas in the real world. And that diversity of thought, is far more important than diversity of immutable characteristics, be it race, religion, or sexuality. Last week, I spoke at the University of Arizona with my friend and former guest, Michael Shermer. It turned out that there was a trans Holocaust denier in the crowd. Not only did we not silence her, but we opened up the floor for her to ask us the first question when we did the Q&A. The students in the room didn't attack her or kick her out, despite her abhorrent beliefs. It was actually a beautiful moment, which shows why free speech is so important. We exercised our right to talk openly at a public event, which anyone was welcome to join. She then shared her ideas, which then we countered with better ideas. We put our principles of free expression to the test. This open discussion with a wide array of opinions is how you expand knowledge and figure out what you believe, not by silencing, shaming, and defaming your ideological opponent. Right or left, Democrat or Republican, male or female, gay or straight, every single issue starts with our ability to discuss it and figure out what we believe. If we can unite against the forces that'll silence us, we may find allies in places we never thought we would.
Oh, my neck!
Damn! You're gonna cry in the car.
That's turncoat Don.
Well, you see, Dave Rubin, I'm gonna defend him in 2015 when he left the Young Turks in 2015, 2016. I think he was still kind of on the left, and probably during that period he was kind of kind of like the lefty guy that saw some of the ridiculousness of what they called the SJW situation back then. But somewhere along the way, Prager got a hold of him and said, "We're going to give you a lot of money." And so he turned into a right-wing fuck at that point and turned into absolutely just a disgusting grifter hack.
Yep. I agree. Yep. That's what your friend just said too. PHX said he's 100,000% a grifter for sure.
Because I'm going to tell you one thing. He doesn't even believe half the shit he says today.
Yeah.
You can just tell looking at it. You can just tell he doesn't even articulate his points well.
Yeah. He dug himself a hole and he's probably dug it too deep and now he can't get himself out of it.
And they don't even like him in the right. I mean, he parades himself as one of the good gays and all of that. And when push comes to shove, they pretty much tell him to his face, maybe politely, they'll tell him, "Oh, we still think you're gross." I mean, that they pretty much tell him that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they do for a lot of those, like Blair White, all the other now Caitlyn Jenner. So they do it to all of them.
What's the turf name? The turf that's she's sort of like a female Dave Rubin, the lesbian turf. Ariel Scarcella. Yeah, she's another one. She is like anti-trans. I mean, that's all. Every time I watch any of her videos, if I ever take a look, peek, that's all she ever does. She just trans bash all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yep. So, speaking of another gross person, I know, like, since we're still talking about, the people and their stance on pro-Israel or pro-Palestine and stuff. So this week, Amy Schumer got super, super viral for her kind of stance on Israel and Palestine and stuff. Obviously, she's pro-Israel, to the point where Martin Luther King's daughter checks her, kind of just cooks her. It was kind of nice to see that happen this week. So here's the video. These guys are cool. The comedy hype. I just started watching them last night with this video. I think I might follow them more because this is pretty interesting. They talk about the news, but they do it with some celebrity stuff too. The world's best female comedian. You're right. Okay.
I'm Tiffany Thompson. The ongoing war between Israel and Palestine continues to break hearts around the world as many call for peace and humanity. Comedian Amy Schumer, who has been open about her Jewish background throughout her career, is one notable figure who has been outspoken about the conflict in the Middle East. For the last several weeks, she has been very active on social media, sharing her thoughts while supporting Israel and asking for the freedom and safety for both. Well, earlier this week, Schumer would share a video of Dr. Martin Luther King calling for unity amongst everyone. Let's take a look at this clip.
Let's see that Israel must exist and has the right to exist and is one of the great outposts of democracy in the world.
My Jewish brothers and sisters said to me amid anti-Semitism anywhere, we don't need your support. We have enough Jewish power to deal with this problem ourselves. I would still take a stand against anti-Semitism because it's wrong, it's unjust, and it's evil. If my Catholic brothers and sisters said to me, we don't need your support in this because we have enough Catholic power to deal with it, I would still take a stand against bigotry toward Catholics. It is evil and it is unjust.
Now, Bernice King, the daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., would catch wind of these posts made by Schumer and made this direct message for the comedian in regards to her father. On Twitter, King said, Amy, certainly my father was against anti-Semitism, as am I. He also believed militarism, along with racism and poverty, to be among the interconnected triple evils. I am certain he would call for Israel's bombing of Palestinians to cease, for hostages to be released, and for us to work for true peace, which includes justice. He said, justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. We have much to correct. Here's a clip of my father talking about withdrawing from the Vietnam War and moral power.
Dr. King, that the war in Vietnam could be stopped now without harm to this country?
Well, there's two ways to deal with it. One is a unilateral withdrawal. I don't oppose that because I feel that this is a possibility. After all, France withdrew unilaterally from Algeria, withdrew without a military victory. And this did not lessen France's prestige or influence in the world. If anything, it increased its prestige in
France
the world.
is not the power that this country is.
Well, I think that's an even greater reason why we should restrain our power. There's always the danger that any nation will abuse its power. I think our power must be much more than military power. We don't need to prove to the world or anybody our military power. I think we've got to prove our moral power.
Do you feel that this nation has abused, as you say, their power?
Oh, I certainly do in the war.
In addition, King also urged for those interested in learning more to pick up a book written by her father. She said, I encourage you to read Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. I mourn with all who are mourning. I know that we can't afford to diminish and dehumanize each other if we are truly committed to ridding humanity of the triple evils and to freedom from oppression for all. She followed that up with, it is midnight in the Middle East and in the world as Palestinians endure death and devastation, now including a near total cellular and internet blackout resulting from Israel's strike. And as people weep for loved ones in Israel who were taken hostage and or killed by Hamas. As I mourn the unconscionable disregard for humanity and appeal for the release of all hostages, I once again passionately urge a ceasefire and immediately deployment to Gaza of additional crucial life-saving supplies at scale needed. We can't wait. Now, since Schumer has been posting on Twitter and Instagram, the comments on her post have been shut off, not allowing anyone to combat, challenge, or even agree with her. Well, on Wednesday, Schumer released a lengthy post on her Instagram, this time with the comments turned on. Before her followers and critics had a chance to condemn her, Schumer's post would get ahead of all of that. She said, couple things. What I want is every hostage back. I want safety and freedom from Hamas for Palestinians and Israelis. I want safety for Jewish people and Muslims as well. Everyone, just like you, I want peace. You will never see me wishing harm on anyone. Saying I'm Islamophobic or that I like genocide is crazy. So here you go by popular demand. Comments on. Please keep the below in mind. When you say I'm rich, please add in self-made. I come from being dirt poor. Senator Chuck Schumer is my dad's second cousin once removed. I didn't meet him until I was 25. I've never been given any money to support a cause other than tampons. I've never stolen a joke. People calling me a failed comic. I'm the most successful female comedian of all time. I'm ugly, fat. Okay. Sorry you aren't attracted to me. I found someone who is. I hope you find someone too. We're all in a lot of pain. What hurts the most is that we all actually love each other. You hate Jews. You don't know why? I still love you. This post from Schumer received a mixed reaction in the comments. Notable actresses like Kate Hudson and Juliana Margulies supported Schumer, while some social media users disagreed. One said, for the love of God, Amy, no one correctly supporting the Free Palestine movement hates Jews. I've been up to 5 pro-Palestinian protests and not a single person is supporting Hamas or disregarding Jewish lives. Have a conversation with one of us. Learn something new, please. Another user would add, this is such a tough time and you've got a personal connection. You're Jewish. Of course you care a lot about other Jewish people. Makes total sense. But you've got a bit of a blind spot here. There was a refugee camp blown up and I haven't seen you say a thing about it. I have to just say that's a miss. I feel like you think if you do that, you're going against Israel. Your posts of late do appear to be aligning with anyone who doesn't support the acts of the Israeli government as a supporter of the Hamas. It's very us versus them. It's feeding Islamophobia and, if I'm being honest, also anti-Semitism because it shows a lack of self-reflection. It shows no room for concessions, no support for any side but your own. Remember, this is a war, and if you choose a side in a war, you may reflect back on that and think, maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe one life isn't more valuable than the other. I wish you the best. It makes a whole lot of sense that you are sad and heartbroken. Just try and pull yourself out of the thick and look at the situation overall. Now, I know this is a tough conversation for us all, and I see a lot of people doing research, which I commend. I love being able to understand exactly what's going on. So I only have two things to say. Just two, and make it short and concise, so hopefully we don't get canceled. And it'll be crazy if we do, because I think these are just facts. First one, for me, seeing innocent human beings being killed will never be okay. Mothers and fathers burying their babies, kids losing their parents, their homes, people being taken hostage. It's not okay. And my heart goes out to every mourning family, and that's in Israel and in Palestine. And I am praying for peace. Speaking of peace, in this situation with Amy, there was actually a story that I saw, a back and forth between an actress, Asia Jackson, and Amy Schumer. And in that back and forth, Amy Schumer calls Asia anti Semitic. Also, earlier in this post, we heard her say, "You hate Jews." So, to Amy, this is what I would say. If you're trying to find peace or cause peace and have peace, throwing labels on people before fully going through the conversation is what exactly?
Exactly what I
I
said.
understand that you love your people, and I admire that. I really appreciate you clearing up exactly what you want to see from both sides, which is peace. But in order to have that, let's not label one another. Because here's the thing, and here's the truth about labels, especially when you call someone anti Semitic. It can ruin their lives, their careers, and 9 times out of 10, they're not going to bounce back. So I want peace. I want to see us come together more. But in order to do that, there has to be conversation. Because when you throw a label, and I know that from just experience, when you throw a label at me, I'm no longer open to understanding what exactly it is that you're saying. Because now I'm on defense mode.
Yep.
So my recommendation to Amy would be, if you want to see people have peace, and if you want people to understand exactly what you're saying, let's not throw labels. Let's
Right.
not say that people hate Jews. Maybe they're not educated on exactly what's happening. Maybe they want to know exactly what's going on. But if the person that they're looking to, or the person that they're seeing all these tweets come from, are easily throwing labels and saying you hate Jews and you're anti-Semitic, that closes the door. And I want to leave the door open, because this war is causing an entirely different war, and I want it to end. I want peace. But hey, those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts about Bernice King responding to Amy Schumer? And might I add, it is pretty hard to argue with the daughter of a king. But let us know in the comments below.
She made a really great statement. I really love how she handled that at the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Martin Luther King's words and everything. I mean, what Amy Schumer doesn't realize, the context of its time. I mean, in 1967, it was a different time, and people didn't exactly know how Israel was created. I mean, they didn't know in the way that we know today. And so they had a more black and white view of what happened in Germany. We gave them a land to apologize, worldwide guilt. I mean, is people had kind of a black and white view of the world like that about Israel, even to the point where the Soviet Union actually for a while was the first country in the world to recognize the country. But Martin Luther King. Yeah, I think if Martin Luther King would still be alive today, he would definitely be denouncing what Israel's doing in Gaza, because the government of Israel today is much more genocidal than it was in 1967. A much worse government than it was in 1967. 1967, it was nothing compared to what it is today. It is a fascist government that they elected a fascist government in Israel. I mean, Netanyahu tried to make a power grab at the Supreme Court in Israel so he can have absolute power to do whatever he would. Because if he would have been able to do that, Gaza would be an absolute parking lot, absolutely, right now. I mean, that's pretty much what he wanted to do.
Yep, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So is there another one you want to get onto next on one of yours?
Let me take a look over here in this guy, my little outline here. Let's see. Second. Let me take a look here.
You got your two-parter, and then you've got the Glenn Greenwald.
We play a lot of Glenn Greenwald, and I'm a big fan. I think that maybe I have to go to work at kind of early tonight.
Okay.
If that's okay with you. So I think we should do the
Sure.
parter. On the second part, I would suggest doing it on having it on mute because there is background music, and I don't want to take a chance with the copyright, with the copyright situation.
Okay, so you want me to play the part 2?
Well, when you play part 2, to mute it.
Okay.
Yeah, part 1's totally fine, and I'll give a little background.
Sure.
Yeah, Angie Moon is she's Angie Moon just she's an author and a writer, and she lives in England. She's from the United States, and she just wrote a book called True Crime, and and basically, hold on a second. Sorry about that. I'm clearing my throat here.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, it's called Crime of the Century: Classic Rock and True Crime, and it's about. I mean, she's a young lady that's kind of interested in the hippie subculture of the 1960s, and she looks through it through a socialist lens, ideologically speaking, and so that's what the book is about. So she's been publishing some short films for the book, and she did one for Halloween this past week. So I just thought I figured she's going to give you a background, and then we'll follow with her little short film. We had to unfortunately mute because of copyright.
Okay, we don't have to mute this one though, right?
We don't.
Okay.
I'm Angie Moon, and happy Halloween. You might have seen the promo film for my upcoming book, Crime of the Century, on your feed. If you haven't, check that out. This video is where I talk about the inspiration and some behind-the-scenes stories behind the video. So if you want to hear more of that, keep on watching and give this a like if you want to see more of this type of content. The inspiration behind my look in the video is Vampira, a character created by actress Mila Nurmi back in the 1950s. Her character predates the characters of Morticia Addams, as seen in the TV show The Addams Family, and Elvira, a character from the 80s, portrayed by Cassandra Peterson. This was the first photo I ever saw of Vampira. I think I might have seen it on Tumblr, and what caught my eye was that tiny little itty-bitty wasp waist. Oh my god, to have a waist like that. That was my goal. One of the few surviving clips of her in the 1950s is of her walking through fog, all eyes on her waist. And that is what I wanted to recreate in the video. So I went to my friend's Victorian house and I filmed myself in the tightest dress that I own, cinching my waist down to 20 inches. Thanks endometriosis for me being able to waist train like that. And I walked down there and then I screamed just like she did back in the 1950s. Of course, because I filmed in a Victorian mansion, there was only one logical choice for the song, Screaming Lord Sutch's Jack the Ripper, about the famous or infamous Victorian serial killer.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
She definitely has like that 1970s Charles Manson girlfriend look on her.
I sort of think of her as more like a Morticia Addams from the Addams Family.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, as I said, unfortunately can't play the music, but she does she's in that video. She does a short promo for her book, and
All right.
she's been a guest on the Willie Bragg Show twice.
Okay. Here it is. No sound.
Yeah.
Sad about the sound.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah.
Very nice waist. She definitely got the waist thing down for sure.
Yeah, she's 29 years old, and I think she wants to live in a year between the years 1967 and 1972. Just she sort of gives you that vibe right there. And
Right.
as I said, she's very interesting to talk to and everything. So and so she's been a guest on my show twice. So
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay. Do you want to do my last one and then end, or do you want to do one more of yours and then I do mine?
How long is yours?
It's a reader. It's just an article.
Yeah, we can probably conclude with yours.
All right. Okay. So, this week, as we all know, Flint has gone without water for Satan knows how many years now. I can't even I don't even think I know anymore because it's been forever. But there were some things that were happening during the Flint water crisis. Some courts things were happening. Things were the ball was starting to roll a little bit on getting the corrupt people in trouble. Well, this week, we just found out that the Nestle's office officially ended its Flint water prosecution and no convictions. Absolutely none. So, Attorney General's office is ending its pursuit of the criminal prosecution over the Flint water crisis after 7 years of no convictions, a decision that came Tuesday after the Michigan Supreme Court rejected an attempt to revive charges against the former Republican Governor Rick Snyder. The Flint prosecution team of the Democratic Attorney General, led by Chief Deputy Attorney General Fada Hamoud and Wade County Prosecutor Kim Worthy, said that the Flint water cases are now closed, whose administration appointed the city managers who oversaw the Flint change of water. Why did that do that? Water sources and the subsequent lead contamination, and he said was encouraged by the Supreme Court decision and vowed to fight against future political persecutions. They both, Hamon and Worthy, said Tuesday that they will release a full and thorough report on the office's prosecutorial efforts in 2024. It's unclear what can be made public since the use of a one-judge grand jury put strict limits on what evidence can be released from the investigation. Hamon and Worthy said that they said our disappointment in the Michigan Supreme Court is exceeded only by our sorrow for the people of Flint. Supreme Court decision in the case are heartbreaking and have been based on procedural flaws and not on the actual merits of the prosecution. They said if a jury decided that the defendants were not guilty of the charged offenses, so be it. But to deny the opportunity to present the evidence and to let the victims tell their story is truly heartbreaking. So a lot of the things that happened in court was they weren't allowed to present a lot of the evidence. A lot of the evidence was blocked in the court cases. Prosecution of state and Flint officials began in 2016. Snyder said Tuesday he planned to work towards ending political persecutions by electing prosecutors with a moral compass, quote unquote, moral compass. I wish this dismissal would represent the end of political prosecution in Michigan forever, he said. Unfortunately, the only way to end political prosecution would require electing attorney generals and prosecutors who believe in facts and have moral compasses and act with civility. What he actually meant to say was, in my pockets, I can pay them off, listens to whatever I say. That's what he should have said. The two-term governor's statement did not name the prosecutors he was criticizing. Flint resident Melissa said that she was infuriated and disgusted with the way that the prosecution unfolded over the past few years. She argued that the cases went sideways as soon as Nestle's office moved to dismiss prior charges by Schuetz's appointed special prosecutor. Todd Flood in 2019 in order to restart the investigation despite concerns from residents about the dismissal. Decisions made about us in Flint without us always led to disaster, this person said on Tuesday. As long as you're wealthy, white, or a government official, accountability does not matter. There's no justice for people who don't look like them. That's what this person was saying. Like it's a class problem. Majority of people that live in Flint, Michigan are people of color. So obviously racism in the government as well to keep the status quo. Virginia Tech water expert who helped discover the city's lead contamination water also expressed his disappointment on Tuesday. For wait, he said first they let the true criminals off the hook, then they charged innocent people with the horrible crimes. And after wasting tens of millions of dollars, everyone is now justifiably frustrated. Perhaps it is a fitting ending to this tragic tale of government failure and incompetence. I don't care about the appeal. There is an effort really quick to release the evidence that wasn't allowed to be seen in court. State of Michigan spent at least $60 million on legal fees alone. And I think that was about it. Definitely going to try for an appeal to get this going again. Just really sad that nobody was charged or convicted for any kind of crimes in the Flint water problem that has been going on a lot longer than a lot of us have been talking about it. And it's still going on to this day.
Absolutely. There's two kinds of justices in this country. There is I guess you could say social justice for the affluent and well off, and no justice for the rest of us.
Yep, exactly.
Sum it up. I mean,
Yep.
that's what it comes down to.
Exactly. Everything comes down to whether or not you have the money for it, and if you have enough power to get yourself away with it. So,
Yeah,
everything.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Actually, can we do just perhaps just one more real quick one?
Sure.
Yeah, it's the last one. It's the Twitter. It's basically a Twitter post from Craig Passadula, where it was just kind of a funny post he did yesterday because it kind of ties into what we've been talking about with the whole censorship and cancel culture, where Craig Passadula wants to know what we should call right-wing people who are pro-censorship and pro-cancel culture, and and he with the way his humor, the way he expressed it, I think we should show it. Yeah, since we call woke leftist shit lives, I think that it's only fair that we come up with a proper nickname for snowflakes on the populist right who have been acting like fools lately.
Right.
And I got one. Cancel culture conservatives.
Yeah, I like it. I was gonna sit here and read some of them. So Lewis F from Punching Up said conservaturds. I like that. Snow Himbo, crud chuds.
Yep.
Nice. I like that one. Cancel culture conservatives with K's. Very nice, Willie.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. I dig it. I totally dig it. You guys are freaking hilarious.
Yeah, so I just thought it was. I just thought that was great. Yeah, I was just like, I'm kind of glad that people are realizing. I mean, we all realize it, but to kind of let people out in the broad know, in American population know this, because the idea it's wedging people's minds that everybody on the left are clutching their pearls and censorious, and everybody on the right are pro free speech, and that's just not the case.
Right. Absolutely.
And we need to go and take back the narrative against these right wing assholes that pretend to be for free speech. Like Ron fucking DeSantis down in Florida.
Right. I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah. So.
Yep. That's funny. You guys are sitting there coming up with conservative names for them.
Yeah, I thought it was great when he did that. I was like, yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get out of here so you can go to work and I can get back streaming again.
Absolutely. So let me just tell everybody here. I appreciate y'all coming on the Willie Bragg show to watch Bragglands. That's fine. There is a Bragglands channel. Please, if you haven't subscribed to that channel, do subscribe to that channel. It helps. We're trying to grow that channel. and subscribe to us on Twitch, as well, and subscribe to Jimmy's channel on Twitch as well. And I guess that's pretty much it. I just wanted our channel to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go check out Bragglands on YouTube and Twitch. They have it. It definitely has its own channel. Give Willie Braggs a follow on his YouTube and Twitch, and then give me a follow as well over on my little Twitchy Twitch right here. It's right here. That's it. You got any shows coming up?
Well, I should have a show tomorrow night. I should not have any difficulties like I've been having lately. Things should be getting a little bit better. So I should have a show prepped up for tomorrow night at 8:00. So and then whenever I get a stream up between now and Friday, I'll try to have a stream here and there. You know how it is with I will suddenly pop up with a stream whenever I can.
Yep, you got it. All right, cool. Just check me out today. I'm going to be streaming on my Twitch today, some Fortnite for the new season. Might be doing the same for a little bit tomorrow. And then check me out. I'll be on mine and Warren's Secret Show. That'll be 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. I believe that's it.
All right. It sounds like that's it then.
All right. Everybody stay high and have a good weekend, and we will catch you guys again soon.
Peace.
Peace.